After another disagreement with Silus Liang about marriage, he got up and went to the guest room. At 2 a.m. wanting to bow down and make amends, I heard him on the other end of the phone with someone at the guest room door. Love and marriage are two different things. Lila can't stand the rules of the wealthy. I'm not marrying her for her own good. Anyway, I don't have a suitable marriage partner yet, so I'll just take it one day at a time. After all, she saved my life and I can't bring myself to break up with her. I didn't push the door open to question him. But after returning to the room, I kept my eyes open until dawn. The next morning I sat across from Silus Liang's mother. Is what you said before still valid? I won't choose Silus Liang, I want the money. Zhao Yu slowly took a sip of coffee before looking up at me. Are you sure? If you take the money, I will never allow Silus to marry you for the rest of my life. The scene before me was very similar to 5 years ago. Only back then I had unhesitatingly refused the check that Zhao Yu offered me. And I had solemnly said, I like Silus Liang and he likes me, so I don't charge my grandfather any consultation fee when treating him. For a few seconds I was dazed and then came to my senses. Don't worry, once I get the money I'll prepare to break up with Silus Liang. Upon hearing this, Zhao Yu didn't waste any more words. Give me an account and I'll transfer the money to you later. When leaving, Zhao Yu reminded me once more, you know Silus's personality. Suddenly bringing up breaking up with him, he definitely won't agree. I paused mid-step, nodded and said no more. When I entered, Silus Liang was busy in the kitchen. Seeing this scene, a picture of him fumbling around in the kitchen a few years ago suddenly surfaced in my mind. I never could have imagined back then. The much-talked-about prince of the Liang family in Rongqing. One day he will learn over 100 different dishes for me without any repetition. Of course, I never expected this man who thinks of nothing but me. In fact, he had never even considered having a home with me. Why did you leave so early this morning? Are you still angry with me? Silus Liang placed the food on the dining table and walked over to embrace me. Last night was my fault for being rude. Let's eat first and then we'll try on the wedding dress this afternoon. If I hadn't heard the few sentences he had with his friends, right now I would definitely give Silus Liang a kiss happily. I hesitated for a few seconds between refusing and accepting. In the end, I still wanted to give myself a dream to fulfill. I replied softly, okay. However, my dream woke up midway through. As soon as she put on the wedding dress, Silus Liang didn't even glance at it carefully before saying he had an urgent company matter and had to leave first. He had just left. Zhao Yu sent me an address right away, followed by a message below. Thinking you might not know what excuse to use for the breakup, I'm giving you a hand. The years I spent with Silus Liang. The number of times I met his mother Zhao Yu was not many. But I always knew that if I married Silus Liang, she would be a very nice mother-in-law. Here's the translation. She knows that Silus Liang and I won't have a future together. She acted decisively and began setting up Silus Liang for blind dates. Unfortunately, I let her down. I failed to catch Silus Liang in the act of going on blind dates. Because I was on my way, I saved a pedestrian who suddenly fell ill. After taking the person to the hospital, I had no energy left to confront Silus Liang. So I went back to the place where I had lived with Silus Liang for several years. When Silus Liang came back, he happened to see me packing my things. Lila, I'm sorry, let's try on the wedding dress again in a couple of days. Zhao Yu probably feared I would regret it. That afternoon they sent me quite a few photos of Silus Liang and my dating matches. The way they smiled and laughed together looked perfectly matched. I was calmer than I had imagined. While stuffing couple products into the bag, I gave a perfunctory response. Let's talk about it later. Silus Liang wanted to say something, but his phone rang, drawing his attention. When he came back to his senses, the topic had already changed. Ah Cheng called us over to sit for a while. Sco. When we get back, I'll help you clean up. This was not a good time to make things clear. I had no choice but to go with him. As soon as I entered the private room, I noticed that the atmosphere inside was a bit strange. Ah Cheng, who usually jokes around with me and calls me sister-in-law whenever we meet. His eyes kept darting towards the woman sitting in the corner. Following his line of sight, I looked over. Under the flickering lights, the woman's face perfectly matched the woman Silus Liang had met for an afternoon date. Silus Liang held my hand and sat me down in the center, not even glancing at that woman. He shoved a glass of juice into my hand and signaled Ah Cheng to introduce who that woman was. Silus, little sister. No, Lila, this is my cousin Ruby Xia who just returned from abroad a few days ago. She doesn't have many friends here, so I brought her along. Perhaps feeling guilty, Cheng's voice grew smaller as he spoke. Silas Liang showed no expression on his face. After nodding at his date, he turned his gaze away. Hello, may I sit here? A few minutes later, Ruby Xia sat down beside me holding a Yorkshire Terrier. Because my attention had been entirely on Silas Liang. So I clearly saw that he frowned slightly when Ruby Xia sat down. I'm a bit slow to warm up to people. I didn't know how to handle the situation in front of me. I could only offer an awkward smile. I heard your ancestors were imperial physicians. War has a poor appetite. Could you take a look at her for me? Practicing medicine to save lives is our family's ancestral precept. Ignoring the unusual feeling in my heart, I said seriously, what other symptoms does the patient have besides poor appetite? Ruby Xia laughed and held the little dog in her hand up in front of me. Here there are no patients, but there's an uncomfortable little dog. It's also a life. Lila won't let it die, will she? Our family is small. When my grandfather was young, for some reason he almost died. He lived a few years under a false identity. But in the end he was persuaded to come out of retirement to save someone. In my memory, those who knew my grandfather's background all treated our family with great respect. Even though I'm a girl, after they found out I was the only heir of the Sang family in this generation. Rarely does anyone speak to me like that. Ruby Summer. Where are your manners? Do you know who you're talking to? After a Ching shouted at her angrily, he turned to apologize to me. Lila, I'm sorry. This girl has been spoiled by her family. Don't take it to heart. After being with Silas Liang, almost all of his friends asked me to check their parents' pulses. I once sensed that there was something wrong with Ching's mother's body when she didn't show any abnormalities. Even though Silas Liang had already recovered at that time. But they thought it was all due to my grandfather's ability and were skeptical of me. But Ching still did it for Silas Liang's sake, taking his mother to the hospital for a physical examination. As a result, they intervened in time before the lesion became cancerous. This is also why, among all of Silas Liang's friends, Ching is so enthusiastic toward me. Miss Xia doesn't understand medicine, does she? Looking at people and looking at pets are completely different things. I hadn't even spoken when Silas Liang piped in first. But he had absolutely no intention of taking my side and said in a calm and unhurried manner, Lila is not a petty person. Miss Xia did not mean to offend intentionally and she would not hold it against her. There had been similar situations before. Someone was talking badly about me behind my back and Silas Liang overheard it, so he immediately took action. No. Because the other person is a suitable match for him in terms of social status. Can he 包容无限包容吗? Sorry Lila, I was too reckless. You won't mind, will you? Saying that, Ruby placed her cool hand on my arm. A strong sense of unease welled up from the depths of my heart. Afraid of showing an unusual expression in public, I quickly stood up. Not at all, but I need to use the restroom. Could you please move aside? I spent a long time in the restroom trying to calm myself down. After deciding to clarify things with Silas Liang as soon as possible, I returned to the private room. I wonder if I was walking too fast just now. The private room door wasn't closed properly, just enough for me to hear the voices inside the room. Silas, although Ruby is my cousin, I still have to say this is fair. If you want to get back together with her, then talk to Lila straight away. You've been together for so many years and she even saved your life once. If you have any conscience, don't treat people like fools. I froze in place, my hand still on the door handle, ready to push the door open. So Silas Liang and Ruby Xia already knew each other? Were they together before? Given Lila's personality, if I break up with her, she'll leave immediately. She has no family left. Where else could she go without me? You don't need to worry about this. Keep your mouth shut in front of Lila. I'll handle Ruby myself. Listening to what Silas said. He wants to discuss marriage with Ruby while keeping me under control at the same time? Take a deep breath, I withdrew my hand from the door and turned to leave. Less than half an hour after arriving home, Silas Liang also came back. Lila, are you feeling unwell? Should we go to the hospital for a checkup? His worried expression didn't seem fake at all. But precisely because of that, I felt even more nauseated. Didn't you take the medicine already? Did you forget? I know medicine myself. He examined me for a long time. After finding that I indeed didn't look like I had any problems, Silus let out a sigh of relief. It's okay then. By the way, Ah Ching said he's hosting a welcome dinner for his cousin tomorrow. Do you want to come with me? I closed my eyes and replied in a dansheng, I won't go. Someone has scheduled a house call for me tomorrow. Silas Liang's attention was drawn to his phone again, and he only, ed after a while. In the early hours when I got up to go to the bathroom and came back, I saw Silas Liang's phone, which he had placed next to the pillow, was lit up. Because of trust, I have never touched his privacy in all these years. I originally wanted to turn off the screen and put it back. But the content that came directly into my view made me hold my breath. I never expected Auntie to set us up on a blind date, Silus. These years I've really missed you. I glanced at the time the message was sent. It should have been right after Silus Liang came back from the blind date, when Ah Ching invited us to get together. Silus Liang didn't reply to this message. Immediately after that, it was me and Silus Liang arriving at the club. Silus, is this your girlfriend you've been together with for so many years? Although she's okay looking, she seems really boring. What do you like about her? Silus Liang responded very quickly. Although both families now have intentions for us to get married, I haven't broken up with Laya yet. Be careful with your words. It seems it was after this message. That's when Ruby Xia sat next to me with her dog. And the content that Silus Liang sent below was even beyond my imagination. You didn't drive? Wait, I'll have someone take you. Are you home yet? Reply to me. Don't make me worry. I'm not unwilling to get back together with you, but my girlfriend is innocent and I don't want to hurt her. By this point, Ruby Xia finally had a response. You should know that in our kind of family, marriage is very difficult to work out as we wish. However, if you want to marry her, I will bless you and even speak a few words for you with your aunt. Compared to marrying you, I would rather you be happy. Silus Liang replied after a long time. Everyone thinks Lila and I are a great match and our relationship is going well. But only I know that over the past few years I've never forgotten you. I will explain this to her clearly, Tang Tang. From the beginning to the end, the woman I want to marry has only been you. This message was sent 30 minutes ago. Because I had something on my mind, I hadn't been able to sleep. But I knew that during that time period Silus Liang had placed a cup of warm water by my bedside. Not only that, he also kissed my forehead and tucked the blanket under my chin. He really went to great lengths. Having to navigate between two women. Afraid of falling into insomnia again. I alternately pressed the Naguan and Shinmen acupoints. Finally, a good night's sleep. The next morning Silus Liang went out. Not long after he left, I received a friend request on my phone. I could tell who it was just by looking at the name. But after hesitating for a few seconds, I still chose to accept it. My brother told me quite a bit about you. To be honest, if we hadn't met under these circumstances, I would have really liked to be friends with you. But there's nothing we can do, third parties don't fit in romance. Silus and I are well matched, we care for each other and we're definitely going to get married. I don't want things to get too ugly, so just leave on your own initiative. It'll be better for everyone. Before Silus Liang came back yesterday, I had already cleared out all the couple's items in the house. When Ruby Xia sent the message, I was organizing my things. Everything in the house that was related to me that I bought. I'll take what I can and what I can't I'm ready to throw away. Seeing that I hadn't replied for so long, Ruby Xia sent another message. You might not know why Silus became seriously ill back then, right? It was actually because of me. Back then I was young and after arguing with Silus I stormed off and said we were breaking up. I left for overseas immediately after. I only found out later that he fell seriously ill because of my departure and almost didn't make it. I'm actually grateful to you, thank you for saving his life. I'm not saying this for any other reason, I just want you to know that what you think is love might just be a form of gratitude. It's true that Silus has feelings for you, but how much of that is genuine affection, that's hard to say. I couldn't quite put my feelings into words. Starting from that night my emotions fell into numbness. I followed my instinct and took back the substantial consulting fee from Zhao Yu that should have been mine years ago. I also warned myself that I must Jinkar her Silus clarify everything. Now I've also learned the truth that was delayed by several years. For a moment I began to doubt my life over these past few years. Is this all just a dream I'm having? I have no complaints about Ruby Xia. Her words may seem somewhat condescending. But that's the confidence and assurance that her family background has given her. and she was merely stating facts without any hostile words. Thank her. At this moment her urging solidified my decision. I'm leaving soon, I wish you both happiness. After sending that message I put down my phone. After all, it was a place where I had lived for several years. I was afraid of leaving things behind that might cause Ruby Summer to misunderstand in the future. I packed very carefully. Before leaving with my suitcase I checked each room one last time. Only after confirming that I hadn't left anything behind that was related to me did I feel relieved to leave. I didn't expect to see Xiao Yu at the airport. I thought you weren't leaving for a few more days. Have you explained everything to Izhou? Although Xiao Yu was wearing a coat, it wasn't hard to tell she was wearing a dress underneath. She must have come straight from Ruby Xiao's welcome reception. I briefly told Xiao Yu about what had happened in the last 2 days and what I had seen. Xiao Yu raised her eyebrows in surprise after hearing what Ruby Xia and I said. The reason I set them up on a blind date was purely to give you a reason to leave Silus. To be honest, if I had to choose, I would still want you to be my daughter-in-law. I didn't know how to respond to that. Xiao Yu stepped forward and straightened my collar for me. Take care of yourself from now on, love yourself before loving others. You can ask me about anything you're unsure of, but most importantly, don't fall in love with just anyone. These few days I didn't shed a single tear. But after Xiao Yu said those words, my tears suddenly overflowed without any warning. Auntie, thank you. Thank her for being a mother and considering my situation from my perspective. After saying goodbye to Xiao Yu, I located Silas's chat window. I sent him the chat records between him and Ruby Xia that I had taken a screenshot of last night. Then I sent a message. I hope you both will be happy. Before Xiao Yu asked me to come and see Silus Liang. Due to his advanced age, my grandfather brought me to live in a beautiful small countryside village in the south. I started school early and skipped grades. After graduating from university at 18, I followed my grandfather to refine my medical skills. These past few years I've stayed by Silus' side, and haven't had much opportunity to go out and see the world. Xiao Yu gave me a 7-figure consultation fee. With this money I'm not worried about the days ahead. I can still go around to clear my mind. The flight ticket was bought randomly after I picked a city I had never been to. Just as I sat down and prepared to catch up on sleep, someone patted my arm. Excuse me, did you happen to save someone by the roadside a couple of days ago? After sizing up the man who was speaking for a few seconds, I showed him a smile. Yeah, it's you. You're out of the hospital already so quickly? The man said he was here on a business trip and never expected to suddenly fall ill. Yeah. What a coincidence. I was just thinking about how to thank you. Are you going on a trip to Nancheng? Although I'm not very good at dealing with strangers. But the other party can be considered a patient I've treated. With this as an opportunity, we chatted all the way. After getting off the plane, the other party was eager to rush back to the company. After adding my contact information, he left. On the way to the hotel, I looked at the tourism guide for Nanching that the other party sent me and thought about where to go first. At this moment, Silus Liang, who had been without his phone, finally saw the message I sent. Having discovered that he couldn't get through to my phone and all his contact methods had been blocked, Silus Liang was getting a bit anxious. He called out to Oching, who was eating nearby. Come on, use your phone to call Lila. Oching saw the urgent look on his face and also understood the importance of the matter. But when he made the call, it showed that the line was unreachable. He tried sending a message instead. 2 seconds later, a red exclamation mark appeared before his message. What's going on? You broke up with Lila? How did you say it? Why did she block me too? Oching really did treat me like a friend. At this moment he somewhat blamed Silus. You know full well that Lila has no family and no friends, can't you just say it nicely? Ruby Xia, who was nearby, noticed that both of these people had unpleasant expressions, so she walked over and asked, what happened? Silus was feeling very confused. Ever since he learned that Ruby Xia had returned from abroad, he had known that this day would come. But when that day actually came, even when breaking up was my idea, Silus realized that he couldn't accept my departure. Lost in his own thoughts, Silus didn't respond to Ruby's words. Oching was also trying to contact me and casually replied, Lila can't be reached. Ruby Xia was somewhat surprised. She thought I was just talking nonsense, but I didn't expect me to act so quickly. I guess she really does leave when she says she will. I muttered unconsciously. Looking up again, she found that the two people in front of her were both staring at her. What do you mean by that? Did you go look for Lila? Silas's tone was not good. Ruby wasn't the type to take insults lightly, and upon hearing this she retorted, "Yeah. Didn't you say you couldn't bring yourself to speak up? I told her all about why you were sick back then and how our two families wanted to arrange a marriage." Aching pointed at Ruby Xia in anger but could say nothing for a long time. "I said don't go bother her." Silus roared in anger. Everyone around them turned their gaze toward here. Ruby Xia Wei Chujilet, she couldn't understand why Silas's reaction was so big. Silus hurriedly left the banquet hall. Just as she was about to get in the car, she was called back by Zhao Yu, who was getting some fresh air outside. "Don't look for her, Lila has already left." Silus didn't know how things had gotten to this point. "What do you mean? Did you kick her out?" His brain could no longer think. Honestly doesn't care whether the words they speak will hurt others. Fortunately, Zhao Yu knows her son's character well and replies in a calm voice, "She is our family's benefactress. How could I possibly drive her away? Wasn't it you who made her make this decision?" Silus actually saw the breakup message I sent before. He also sent a video. He just hadn't opened and watched it yet. Under Zhao Yu's gesture, he took out his phone. Then he saw the chat history between him and Ruby Xia. How could this be? Lila would never look at my phone. Hearing Silas's words, Zhao Yu's face showed a trace of mockery. "You little brat, you should be grateful that I'm your mother. If Lila's relatives were still alive, how could they allow you to deceive her feelings like this?" Silus wanted to delude himself further. "No, I didn't mean to hurt her." Zhao Yu wouldn't let him get away with it. "Then tell me yourself, what are you planning? Are you trying to marry Ruby Xia while still keeping Lila by your side?" Silus moved his lips but couldn't speak. "When you two just got together 5 years ago, I wanted Lila to leave. If that kid hadn't said you both liked each other and refused the consultation fee, and if I hadn't seen that you truly had feelings for Lila, I wouldn't have let you ruin someone else's daughter." Silus asked incredulously, "Mom? Are you my mom? Why would you say such a thing?" Hearing this, Zhao Yu sneered, "I'm not ready for you to be my son yet. I originally thought you would bring Lila home. Who could have expected you to still be pining for that girl from the Xia family? As soon as she returned, your stance became unstable. It's a waste of Lila's years of devotion to you." Zhao Yu adjusted her breathing and continued, "Back then I promised Lila's grandfather that I would take good care of his granddaughter. But look at you, you actually wanted to have your cake and eat it too? How could I raise such a fickle person like you? When did our Liang family ever produce someone who breaks their promises?" Silus, who was already having a hard time accepting my sudden departure. See his own mother expose his innermost secrets in public. His emotions suddenly snapped. "I didn't mean to hurt Lila. Mom, where is she? I have to find her back." Zhao Yu saw Cheng and Ruby Xia come out of the banquet hall one after the other. In the end, I couldn't bring myself to let outsiders see Silus in this state. After shoving Silus into the car, Li drove away from the scene in front of a Cheng who had arrived. After checking in and taking a shower, I took a taxi to the restaurant that Song Ji Li highly recommended. I didn't expect that as soon as I walked through the door, I locked eyes with Song Ji. "Dr. Sang, you really came." After exchanging a few pleasantries with Song Ji, I looked toward the man standing beside him who hadn't said a word. He should be the boss that Song Ji mentioned, brilliant and accomplished in his youth, but cold and unapproachable. Ignoring his scrutinizing gaze, I nodded naturally. "Please have the waiter show me to an empty seat." "Your surname is Sang? How are you related to Sang Zhan?" As I passed by that man, his deep voice rang in my ears. Hearing this name, I stopped walking. "Do you know my father?" I don't know how it happened, but suddenly I was sitting with them. The man said his name was Liao Yufeng. Knowing my father's name was because my father once saved the life of his father. Upon hearing of Mr. Sang's passing, my father was deeply saddened for a long time. Learning that the Sang family had only an elderly patriarch and an underage girl left, he had people search everywhere for your address, wanting to help Mr. Sang care for you. Who would have thought I would encounter you here? My mother had a difficult childbirth when she gave birth to me. Although she survived the ordeal at the time, she was left with a chronic illness as a result. I died from illness when I was 3 years old. My father, after that, often went out to treat people's illnesses. When I was 10 years old, he died in a car accident. As a child, I overheard my grandfather earnestly tell my father, "Everyone has their fate. You can't just do things that exceed your capabilities just because Lila's mother has passed away. Lila is so young, don't make her lose her father at such a young age." I didn't understand what my grandfather was trying to say at that time. That was until my father passed away. One day my grandfather had too much to drink and was crying in front of my father's photo. "Genre, I regret it so much. If only I hadn't taught you that sorcery back then. It should have been cut off right there." Later, when I grew up a bit more, I asked my grandfather what those words meant. Grandfather was silent for a long time, but he only said one sentence. "Lila, your grandfather will pass down his medical skills to you, but as for the rest of it, you need not ask any further." Grew up relying on my grandfather for support. I understand my grandfather's character. Knowing that he had made up his mind, I didn't ask any further. But as the years passed and my grandfather died unexpectedly, I think I roughly understand what he was trying to hide from me. Thank you for your father's concern. Those years my grandfather and I had a pretty good life. Liao Yufeng stammered for a while before finally asking, "May I ask your grandfather?" Seeing the other party's hesitation, I said to Hawaii, "Grandfather has been dead for 5 years. Sorry." Song Ji sat there silently, never daring to speak up. Seeing our silence, he looked left and right, opened the door and called the waiter to serve the food. Because of Liao Yufeng's words, I was reminded of many old memories. We hardly spoke anything during dinner. After the meal, just as I was about to say goodbye to them, Liao Yufeng spoke up and extended an invitation. "Miss Sang, my father's health has been rather poor recently. If it's convenient for you, could you please come visit him at home? Although it's not as good as my grandfather's and father's skills. But I can treat most common illnesses, so I didn't refuse." I had agreed on a time for him to come over, and I found it hard to refuse Liang Yufeng's kind offer to escort me back to the hotel. I had assumed there would be a driver driving me. Unexpectedly, after the driver dropped us off at the restaurant entrance, he left. Sitting in the passenger seat beside Liang Yufeng, I awkwardly looked out the window at the scenery. "Miss Sang, are you here for tourism? Have you considered settling down in Nan City?" Due to the connection between my father and his father, I Dudong offered to have Liao Yufeng change his address. Hearing him readily call me Lila, I adapted for a few seconds before answering his question. "I'm planning to open a traditional Chinese medicine clinic, but I haven't decided which city to set it up in yet. Nanqing is my first stop for investigation." Yu Guangzhong, Liao Yufeng's index finger tapped on the steering wheel. "It seems keeping you here is going to be a bit difficult." He thought Liao Yufeng was concerned about his father's health. I smiled but said nothing. After arriving in Nanqing, I changed my phone number. After much hesitation, I still sent a message to Zhao Yu using my new number. "Hi Auntie, I'm letting you know I'm safe so you won't worry." Zhao Yu returned very quickly. "Take good care of yourself. If you encounter any difficulties, come to me without any reservations." What I didn't know was, after replying to me, Zhao Yu saved the number and then deleted our conversation. Looking at Silus in front of her who insisted she hand over her address, Zhao Yu let out a frustrated sigh. "What if you do find her? Don't you know Lila's personality? Do you really think she'll come back with you?" Silus was hit where it hurt again. Spinning in place a few times, I sat down across from Zhao Yu. "Mom, help me. Where did you find Grandpa Lila in the first place? Please tell me the address." Zhao Yu listened as Silus mentioned my grandfather. She tightly closed her eyes. Originally, if it weren't for Silus nearly dying, Zhao Yu would have gone around asking people and worshipping Buddha. She also wouldn't have been able to learn about the miraculous qualities of the Sang family. When she found out I was with Silus, Zhao Yu wanted to interfere and stop it. Because she knew her son well. She also knew why Silus had fallen seriously ill. She was afraid that Silus would let me down, would let down the sacrifices my grandfather had made. But she saw that Silus had developed feelings for me. She saw the feelings I had for Silus. Zhao Yu also had her own selfish thoughts. She hoped her son could find a daughter-in-law like me. But she also knew that matters of the heart couldn't be forced. So it was after I refused to accept payment for medical treatment 5 years ago that Zhao Yu said that remark. "I rather like you, little girl, but nobody can predict matters of the heart. If one day you part ways with Silus, this check will still be valid. Girls, having some money by their side is always a good thing." She had left me an exit strategy 5 years ago. Zhao Yu was able to build the family fortune to such a great extent because she always believed in karma and cause and effect. So when I proposed taking back that initial sum of money, Zhao Yu acted immediately. Have Silus and Ruby meet. Let me have a reasonable and beneficial reason to leave completely. Zhao Yu knows I have no intention of going back. She also knows her son won't give up until he hits a wall. So after remaining silent for a long time, Zhao Yu told Silus the former addresses where I and my grandfather had lived. The next day, as soon as I stepped out of the hotel, I saw Liao Yufeng waiting at the entrance. Actually, you could have just told me the address and I would have gone there myself. After all, I was just a common traditional Chinese medicine practitioner with a relatively distinguished family background. I can't guarantee that all diseases can be treated. Being treated this way by such a big boss is really hard for me to adapt to. Noticing my discomfort, Liao Yufeng smiled and said, "Don't put any psychological burden on yourself, this is what my father requested." Hearing that it was an elder's request, I didn't say anything else. Perhaps he could tell that I wasn't good at socializing. Along the way, Liao Yufeng kept actively looking for topics. By the time I realized it, I discovered that Liao Yufeng had already asked me about my situation thoroughly. Business people are terrifying. Aware of this, I became more cautious with my words afterward. But Liao Yufeng seemed oblivious, still very curious about my life and my grandfather's life before. Once we arrived, I quickly got out of the car and let out a sigh of relief in the place where Liao Yufeng couldn't see me. Of course, I didn't notice Liao Yufeng's smiling face raised behind me. Although Liao Yufeng's father was getting old, he still carried the aura of a person in a higher position. However, when he saw me, the kind smile on his face didn't make me feel at all uneasy. I like to settle things quickly. After sitting for a few minutes, he began to inquire about the patient's condition. "Mr. Liu mentioned that you're not feeling well. What are the specific symptoms?" Liao Fu and Liao Yufeng exchanged a glance and then Shin Tu Shou. "I don't know what's wrong with me either. Little girl, please take a look at me." Noticing the teasing tone in the other person's voice, I was somewhat confused. I took the pulse of Mr. Liao with both hands alternately. I also examined his tongue coating. "Although I can still see traces of that serious illness from years ago, your father received thorough treatment. Your health condition is much better than that of people of the same age. Just pay attention to your diet, exercise appropriately and have regular medical checkups. There's no need to worry too much." Many elderly people say they're not feeling well just to get their children to pay more attention to them. So I didn't think yesterday's words from Liao Yufeng were lies. Seeing me stand up and prepare to leave, Liao Yufeng said, "Since you're here, how about you take a look at all members of our family? We won't mind the consultation fee at all." Hearing these words, I sat back down. Due to my grandfather's upbringing, whenever someone asks for medical treatment, I cannot refuse. I glanced at Liao's father and noticed his expression was somewhat intriguing. Noticing my gaze, Liao's father called over a servant to bring me some fruit. "Yufeng told me you're here in Nan City for tourism? This child is probably afraid that one day you'll leave and they won't be able to find anyone, so they want you to show everyone at home, hoping you won't take offense." Since the elders have said such things, I had even less reason to refuse. While waiting for people to arrive, Liao's father told me quite a bit about what happened when my father was treating him. "Where is the doctor? I saw the message and came here without even attending the meeting." A bold, clear female voice came from behind. Immediately after, a steady stream of people came in. Seeing more and more people appear, I looked at Liao Yufeng in surprise. "I'm just a wandering doctor. Why does this place feel like a top-tier hospital consultation room?" See the accusation in my eyes. Liao Yufeng walked up to me and whispered, "Sorry, I just mentioned in the group chat that the doctor who cured my father's daughter lives at my place and they all showed up. We do have a pretty big family, so don't take it personally. What does it feel like to be stared at by dozens of strangers?" At this very moment, I suddenly felt as though I had wandered into a wolf's den. I can't take in so many people all at once. Human energy is limited. The medical skills my grandfather taught me originally required careful observation. Looking at a few at once is fine. Looking at dozens of them, even if my grandfather came, I probably couldn't manage it. "Don't worry, I'll have the servants make them wait in line. How about 5 per day?" Due to my anxiety, I didn't notice that when Liao Yufeng was talking to me, the distance between us had become very close. No one noticed the people in the room when they saw Liao Yufeng's gentle expression. They were all shocked and looked at each other in disbelief. How many people are there in your family altogether? I was thinking of leaving in a couple of days. Since I'm planning to open a traditional Chinese medicine clinic, I need to go home and bring some important things with me. I don't plan to live in a small countryside village anymore. But I still need to go back once to handle the house. Liao Yufeng's moved directly through my plans into chaos. Why are you in such a hurry to leave? Don't you like Nan City? Liao Yufeng spoke loudly when saying this. Perhaps because the room was very quiet, everyone else also heard it. Miss Sang doesn't like Nanqing? Our family has branches in many cities. Where does Lila like to go? I usually like traveling. We can be travel companions. One by one they each spoke directly, leaving me stunned. Liao Yufeng cleared his throat and everyone immediately fell silent. Is there some urgent matter that needs to be dealt with? He spoke in a lower voice again. Because on the way here I had already told Liao Yufeng about my plans, so I didn't hide it from him. It's not exactly an urgent matter. I want to go back to my hometown once, take my grandfather's and father's things with me, so that when I've chosen a location for my traditional Chinese medicine clinic, I won't have to make a detour to go back again. It's as if they'll be with me all the time. Liao Yufeng stared at me for several seconds in silence without speaking. When I gave him a questioning look, he asked, "Is this thing important? Can other people touch it?" It's just a photo of my grandfather and my grandfather's manuscript. Grandfather liked seal script, and there aren't many people today who can read the characters in the manuscript. Something very important to me. But it wasn't important enough that others couldn't touch it. Hearing what I said, Liao Yufeng crouched down in front of me. If you trust me, tell me the address and I'll have someone bring it to you, okay? Or wait until you finish seeing all my family members and I'll go back with you. Seeing that I wanted to refuse, Liao Yufeng said again. On the way here I heard you mention briefly where you lived as a child. It's such a remote place and I'm worried about you going back there alone. And I also know some of the Shin family's secrets. Now that you're alone and a young girl, what if bad people are watching you? Those who can get Grandpa and my father to make an appearance are none other than extraordinary people. So it's not strange that they would know our family's secret. I didn't want Liao Yufeng to misunderstand me, so I explained, I know what you're referring to and I can tell you very clearly that Grandfather did not pass down that kind of magic to me. I am simply an ordinary traditional Chinese medicine practitioner. To be honest, if there were really some very difficult and stubborn diseases, I might not be able to cure them. As I said this, I deliberately raised my voice so that everyone in the room could hear. After returning to the hotel last night, I looked up the Liang family on the internet. Their assets were more than 5 times those of the Li family. I didn't believe that such a large clan would not have their own trusted doctor. They can come all the way to Liao Yufeng's house just because of a single word. They probably just think I'm as talented as my father. But the truth is I'm just an ordinary person. Spending time and energy queuing up to wait for me to take their pulse is really unnecessary. I thought that by saying this the Liao family would lose interest in me. To my surprise, the middle-aged woman who arrived first spoke up. Lila, you misunderstood and don't put pressure on yourself. Back then when your father pulled my older brother back from the brink of death, our entire family was very grateful to him. We rushed here so eagerly for 2 reasons. First, we really want to meet you, and second, we want to express our belated gratitude to your family. The young woman who had previously said she liked traveling spoke up. When my uncle recovered, Uncle Sang left and we didn't have time to thank him for all the help he gave to the Liao family. Who would have known that when we heard news of Uncle Sang again, he had already passed away. Because of this, my uncle regretted for a long time. This is something my father was capable of doing. He kept treating people and saving lives, just to make up for the regret of not being able to save my mother back then. Not for money. I glanced at Liao's father and noticed his eyes were red-rimmed as he looked at me. Lila, Yufeng should have told you that after your father passed away, I searched everywhere for news of you and your grandfather. A few years ago I learned your grandfather had gone to the Liang family, and after that we lost all contact with you too. Seeing you in Nan City is something I never even dared to dream about. I know what your father sacrificed to save my life, so could you give me a chance to take care of you properly in his place? I felt somewhat at a loss, unsure of how to handle this situation. 5 years ago when I went to the Liang family with him, it marked the beginning of my medical practice. Over the years being with Silus Liang, the patients I've seen are basically all acquainted with their family. Due to social obligations, I've only symbolically charged some money, taking 7 figures in consultation fees from Zhao Yu. It's as if I used this money to buy out the karmic connection between our families and theirs. My grandfather and father have treated many people over the years, and they each have their own ways of handling problems. Liao's father is the only person I've ever met who still thinks about my father, thinks about me, and thinks about my grandfather all these years later. Uncle, I've grown up now. I can take care of myself. After thinking for a few minutes, I politely declined. Fortunately, they didn't pressure me into anything. Liao Yufeng's aunt-in-law called the servants to help arrange the queue. Lila, from what Yufeng said, you're considering opening a traditional Chinese medicine clinic, right? You don't need to feel any pressure. Just follow what Yufeng said, see 5 patients a day, and treat it as gaining experience. That statement was indeed correct. Thinking that I was free to go back whenever I wanted, I no longer refused this arrangement. The next half-month I appeared at the Liao family at fixed times every day. Liao Yufeng would personally pick me up and drop me off whenever he had time. If there's no time, let his aunt drive. I've proposed multiple times that I could go by myself, but they all refused. For the rest of the time besides medical appointments, I was taken around the entire city of Nanqing by Liang Yufeng's cousin. At this point, Silus Liang had already been waiting in the small countryside for many days. 2 years ago, Silus Liang took over most of the company's work. The small village has poor signal, and the company's people haven't been able to reach him these past few days. With no other options, they could only call Zhao Yu. Due to his health condition, Liang's father now spends most of his time in a convalescent home. Knowing what Silus Liang had done, he sent someone to the small countryside village to bring Silus Liang back. Tell him that if he doesn't come back, I will revoke his position in the company and reclaim all his shares. What were you doing earlier, now putting on this sentimental act for whom? When the assistant found Silus Liang according to the address, what they saw was him waiting for me at my doorstep in a debilitated state. President Liang, you should go back. There's still a lot of work waiting for you at the company. The assistant conveyed President Liang's father's words. Seeing that Silus Liang hadn't responded, he tried hard to persuade him. Silus Liang looked back at the house that hadn't been lived in by anyone for many years, and replied in a hoarse voice, "Let's go." The day after Silus Liang left, I returned to the small countryside with Liao Yufeng's company. The neighbor auntie, upon seeing me get out of the car, looked at me carefully for a while before grasping my hand. "Lila, you've been gone for far too long. By the way, there was a young man waiting outside your house a few days ago. Do you know who he was?" Based on the auntie's description, I knew the person who came was Silus Liang. "I don't know, maybe you got the wrong person." After exchanging a few more pleasantries with auntie, I opened the courtyard gate that had been closed for many years. The house had been neglected for years and was no longer livable. I planned to grab my things, tidy up a bit, and then leave. After looking into each room one by one, Liao Yufeng suggested, "The decoration of this house looks quite unique. Should I find someone to renovate it? If you miss home someday, you can come stay for a couple of days anytime." She had previously said the small countryside was remote and insisted I not come back alone. Seeing the scenery here with his own eyes, Liao Yufeng also changed his mind. "Anyway, I don't know how much it will cost to start a traditional Chinese medicine clinic. Once I achieve financial freedom, I'll renovate this place properly and can come here to retire in the future." Seeing Liao Yufeng hesitant to speak, I knew he wanted to pay for my repairs. I ignored him. Fortunately, my grandfather preferred a simpler lifestyle. There wasn't much stuff in the house. After throwing away things that were no longer usable and packing up what I wanted to take with me, I knocked on my neighbor's door. I rushed out with my grandfather that year, only managing to say I'd ask the neighbor aunt to keep an eye on the house. The aunt was afraid of touching anything she shouldn't, so over the years she'd only helped tend to the flowers and plants in the yard. That was already enough. When I came, I specifically took some cash with me, and when the aunt opened the door, I slipped it into her hands. "Auntie, I still need to trouble you to have your family keep an eye on the house." Auntie refused for a long time, but seeing that I was firm, she finally accepted. "Good child, Auntie will help you watch over it. When you're alone, you must take good care of yourself." Just then Liao Yufeng walked up beside me. Auntie grabbed his hand firmly. "Boy, Lila is a poor girl. Her family has nothing left but her now. You mustn't bully her. Otherwise, everyone in our whole village will cause you trouble. Just as I was about to explain, Liang Yufeng instead squeezed Auntie's hand and promised, "Auntie, don't worry. I'll definitely take good care of Lila." On my way back to the city, I thought and finally spoke up. "I was just afraid that Aunt would worry, so I didn't stop you earlier, but from now on, don't say things that cause misunderstandings. I'm not stupid." The warmth shown by the Liao family towards me recently, and the care that Liao Yufeng has given me, I can definitely feel. But I didn't have the idea of starting a new romance so quickly. So I had to explain myself in advance. I thought Liao Yufeng would back down when he realized the difficulty, but to my surprise, after he let out a light chuckle, he said, "Like you and pursue you are my rights. You can choose not to accept, but you can't stop me. That makes sense. I can't find any reason to refute it. Don't worry, I won't do anything you don't like. Before you agree to be with me, I will keep a firm grasp of the boundaries." After all, he was a group manager. After returning from the small countryside, Liao Yufeng became busy. And I also began looking for a city to open a traditional Chinese medicine clinic. Liao Yingying became a blogger after graduating from university, enjoying time freedom. Knowing that I was leaving Nanqing, she pleaded with me to take her along. Thus, in the following half-day, the two of us traveled quite a bit between China and abroad. Perhaps it was because she kept telling me how great Nanqing was in my ear. Finally, I still chose the address of the traditional Chinese medicine clinic in Nanqing. I never expected to meet Ruby Xia at the traditional Chinese medicine clinic a year later. When our eyes met, she was also extremely surprised. Seeing the diamond ring on her ring finger, I thought she had already married Silus Liang. Don't misunderstand, I got married, but I didn't marry him. As soon as Ruby Xia sat down, she started telling me what happened after I left. Silus Liang, after being taken back, began working frantically. When Ruby Xia went to look for him, he didn't even see her and said it was impossible for them to get married. Who can't live without the other? At that time I got so angry that I eloped with another dating match my mom introduced me to. But my husband and I fall in love after marriage, and surprisingly our relationship is actually pretty good. Zhao Yu attended Ruby Xia's wedding. After returning home, she was annoyed by Silus Liang, who locked himself in his room as soon as he got back home. He was arranged for intensive blind dating. He got married half a year ago, but he divorced last month. You wouldn't believe it, but now everyone in Liqing is talking about how Silus Liang can't perform. Now it's going to be hard for him to get married again. Hearing this made me feel somewhat awkward. Seeing that I wasn't interested in Silus Liang's matter, Ruby Xia reached out her hand proactively. "I'm traveling here and heard from locals that there's a traditional Chinese medicine clinic here that's quite good. Can you take a look? I've been married for almost a year now and haven't gotten pregnant yet. Could there be something wrong with me?" Besides being slightly deficient in qi, Ruby Xia's body is in good condition. She should be reassured that pregnancy can't be rushed. And if she's concerned, it would be best for her partner to go to the hospital for a checkup as well. We've both been examined and we've also seen a traditional Chinese medicine doctor before. It's pretty much what you're saying. Alright, I trust you. I and Ruby Xia should count as having met for the second time. I never expected her to have such a neat and decisive personality. When she was leaving, she even took the initiative to say, "You don't have to worry, I won't tell Silus Liang about what happened here. You were right to leave back then. That girl really isn't someone to be trusted." I never expected that I would have such a conversation with someone who was almost a love rival to me. When Liao Yufeng arrived, the smile on my face hadn't faded yet. Another weird patient again? The traditional Chinese medicine clinic was able to open successfully. The Liao family, especially Liao Yufeng, really went out of their way to help. From choosing the location to dealing with the small-time thugs around, Liao Yufeng almost did everything himself. But even though he tried his best to keep unwanted people away from me, there were still some strange patients who argued with me. For this reason, he would visit the clinic whenever he had nothing to do, afraid that I would be bullied by others. I still didn't agree to be with him. But after a year of cohabitation, I had also gotten used to sharing daily amusing stories with him. He also knew about my past relationship with Silus Liang. Liao Yufeng had heard that Ruby had been there and repeated what Ruby had said to him. He didn't say anything for a long time. "Are you still not agreeing with me because you haven't forgotten him yet?" After reacting for a few seconds, I finally realized who, him, referred to in what Liao Yufeng had said. Flipping him a white eye, I said, "You have nothing to say? Do I have a problem? Why are you thinking about him?" The man who never showed his true feelings in front of his employees was now looking at me with some grievance. Is it that I didn't do something right? Everyone else is thinking about having kids, but my wife is still nowhere to be found. My father said that if I don't bring you home this year he won't recognize me as his son. Seeing that I remained silent, he started complaining again about how women would pretend to be drunk and throw themselves at him during business dinners. At the company, a new employee deliberately created chance encounters with him. I also want to be able to confidently say I have a girlfriend, a wife, and make them stay away from me, but you're not giving me any chance at all. Are you that upset? Then let's just be together. I'm about to die from embarrassment over those guys mocking me. What did you just say? Liao Yufeng suddenly stood up and rushed in front of me. Lila, what did you just say? Can you say it again? Seeing the hope and anxiety in his eyes, I smiled and repeated, I said if you're so upset, then let's be together. Before the words had even left my mouth, I was pulled into Liao Yufeng's embrace. Noticing his slightly trembling body, I gently patted his back to comfort him. Just then someone entered the room, Dr. Sang. Oh dear, sorry for the interruption. I'll come back later. Hearing the sound, Liao Yufeng let go of me, his eyes reddening with tears, his face beaming with joy. Every day in the family group someone is checking in, watching to see how long it takes me to turn you into my girlfriend. I need to let them know this news right now. Who would have thought that the calculating Liao boss would have such a side to him? I can't guarantee that we'll make it to the end. But it's not too late for the sunset glow. Everything is arranged for the best. End of text.